Hey, what's happening, good people? What it do, what it do, what it do. It is your boy, SportsRap CEO, in the building. Once again, you see right over the top. Yeah, we on air. You know where I am, at SportsRap CEO on Instagram. And you can also get the audio. But I'm not in studio today. But anyway, at SportsRap CEO on Instagram is where I'm at live. All right, everybody knows that. That's where y'all can find me. So we got some things that I wanted to bring to the table. I want to have a little bit of fun with y'all today. So if you saw the post, you saw my flyer, as I always post a flyer. You saw the flyer. The flyer had top 10 in there. Of course, we're going to talk a little Sports Shots Pod. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me do my due diligence here. Make sure I get everybody in. Yeah, Sports Shots Pod, thanks for tuning in. Make sure I know y'all follow me. Make sure y'all go check them out as well. Little bit different commentary. I'm a Philly guy, Philly based, but I give y'all what I give y'all. Make sure y'all go check them out too. They definitely support me, so we got to make sure we support. Make sure that support is reciprocated. So again, we definitely gonna talk NBA Finals. We got Game 5 tonight. Tonight, Game 5, and we know how things usually play out, right? We know the history of all of this jazz and all that. They say the team that wins Game 5 usually goes on to win the series. Could be true, could hold true, could not. We'll definitely see. Tonight we'll start that off. It's Game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City. Right, the series is tied 2-2. Each team has won a game on the opposing team's court, and no one has won a game back to back as of yet. If OKC wins tonight, they will be the first team to win back to back games in this series. But we'll see what happens. Overall, for me, it's a good series. But we're gonna get to that in a second. Also, in my flyer, you saw that I posted top 10. Yeah, I got some top 10s for y'all. Last week, I gave y'all a little bit of stuff. I talked about the basketball positions because, I'm an old school basketball guy. So I talked about basketball positions and their responsibilities. And then as I'm doing research, I'm searching to find stuff because we're in this downtime of sports, which I hate. And got to get topics, got to stay relevant, right? So I found one top 10 list. Actually, I found two. And then I said, let's have some fun with it. And I'm scrolling through some more, and I found a couple more lists. So I'm going to go through those lists. We're going to talk a little bit about those lists. And like I said, we're going to have some fun with it, And also, like I did post, and I'll probably post it again after I do my editing and get this video up on YouTube, on the YouTube channel and everything like that. I'll probably post it again. Like I said, we got a little bit of time before we get back into football. And I know we got baseball. Yes, I'm supporting. I got my Phillies hat on today. I'm supporting as always. But I like to hear from you guys. I know you all are watching and you all sitting and looking at me, talking to me when I'm here live. But during the week, I tell y'all all the time, y'all know how to reach me. Y'all know how to get in touch with me. It's a simple handle, at SportsRap CEO, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. You can even get on that YouTube. If you see a video you like, leave me a comment or something. Let me know what you guys want to hear me talk about. Ask me questions, and I can bring those questions to the table. I might talk about them on there. I've done that before, but I know you people are watching. Like I said, don't be shy. I know I say some things. I know I give you some information, and I know that you still have some questions about stuff that I give you because of the angles that I use a lot of times when I give you information. So, again, when I'm done with the show, you got questions about the exact show that just aired, or you got questions that you have, stuff going on, hit me up. Let me talk to you. We can talk to each other. All right. So get into what we do. Scores from yesterday, Major League Baseball. The Reds and the Tigers. The Reds take that 8-4. The Rockies beat up on the Braves 10-1. The Angels fall to the Orioles 11-2. The Marlins get by the Nationals 3-1. The Yanks get blanked by the Red Sox 2-0. The Phillies get up on the Blue Jays 11-4 down at Citizens Bank Park. The Rays blank the Mets 9-0. The A's get by the Royals 3-2. The Twins fall to the Astros 2-1. The Cardinals and the Brewers take that 3-2. The Pirates fall to the Cubs 3-2. The White Sox get beat by the Rangers 2-1. The Guardians get blanked by the Mariners 6-0. The Padres 8, Diamondbacks 2. Giants fall to the Dodgers 5-4. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Go Stros. I'm with that kind of sort of. Y'all guys beat us. We had y'all beat, and our bullpen went to you know what, and they couldn't do anything with you guys. But reading your comment, let's see here. Definitely curious about my thoughts on the NBA rebrands. They recently roasted the Magic for squeezing the life out of their logo. For me, I am one of the biggest basketball fans. I'll say that. I am one of the biggest basketball fans you could ever meet, you could ever find, you could ever talk to. I have a new found understanding for the NBA now. And this has just come about like full circle and in the last couple of years since I've been doing the podcast and whatnot. The NBA has, in my opinion, been reaching in a lot of ways. Like last week, I talked about the All-Star game, and I talked about what they're going to do this year. It's going to be USA versus the world and all of that. But then I also went back and remembered how it used to be, what us true basketball fans used to look forward to on All-Star weekend. And then I talked about how they dumbed it down and couldn't get people to watch. Then they trying to revive it. So a lot goes into that. So the rebranding, I don't know if the NBA is now getting too caught up in the social media aspect of things. I do understand that where we are today, social media is currently a big part of what goes on with these younger players in the NBA and basically the core of the NBA now. But this rebranding, it for me, it takes away from a lot of what us basketball fans know and have come accustomed to. You think they're just adjusting uh, to make advancements, I guess, in the logos and things. But then you look at them, and some of them are like completely changed, and some of them don't even really relate to the team or to the sport, more so to the sport as much as they did in the past. So for me, yes, the rebranding is, I don't really get it. Like I said, I think the NBA is reaching a little bit with that. Like I said, I know, I definitely feel that things are not going the way that they really want them to go. I'm guessing that there is some rebranding that they're trying to bring some more younger people in and things of that nature. But if that's the case, then put a better product on the floor. I also talked a couple weeks ago about how the NBA has changed into this more European style game. And I talked about the European players catching up at one point as well. But now, like I said, I talked about the playoffs this year. There were games I saw when for minute stretches of games, offense was being started and being run outside the 3-point line. There was like no activity in the low post in the paint. And this is what the NBA has come to. I talked about it, that Boston series. I think it was the Boston and Knicks series or whatever Boston series it was. I forget which one. But in those first two games, they shot 100 3-pointers between the two teams, which is crazy. And they didn't shoot them well. That's what makes things even worse. A lot of these teams that shoot these absurd number of threes don't shoot well. They don't have great percentages when they shoot these massive number of threes. But anyway, again, getting back to that branding, just to close that up, Yeah, my guys on the Sports Shots Pod. Yeah, the branding for me is just something that I think the NBA is just reaching. A lot, even so, a little bit with the City Edition uniforms. I think that's kind of getting out of hand right now. I understand that you want to try and bring some more revenue, pay a little bit of homage to some of the past teams because some of the teams do have storied histories. But what I'm saying is it's now the teams have 5 different uniforms where it's been going away from the traditional white at home, dark colors on the road. Now you've got so many different uniforms. You may see a game where both teams are wearing colors. And we're not gonna go as far as saying dark colors, but you might see teams saying colors. We've seen it in the finals so far. For a while, the only team in the NBA that had a colored home uniform was the LA Lakers with their gold. So now you blend in and you have the Pacers that have gold uniforms for their home uniforms. And we just saw gold uniforms playing against blue uniforms for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So again, yes, I am a fan of the Sixers bringing back the black uniforms this year. But for me, I feel like there's a story behind it. If you're not from Philly, you may not get it. You may not have heard it. You may not understand it. But this is the 50. This is the birthday year for Allen Iverson turning 50. Okay, so I think there is a little bit of homage to him. The past 2 city editions, I get it. Again, the storied history, the storied city. Okay, but again, I think they're getting just a little bit out of control where I don't think these teams should have 4 or 5 different uniforms. I get it. Home uniform, away uniform. Since you instituted a city edition, a throwback, if you will, and then maybe one alternate. I think that's about it. But who am I, right? Continuing with some scores, WNBA yesterday, the Sky and the Sun. The Sky take that 78-66. The Dream and the Mystics, the Dream take that 89-56. And the Mercury get by the Aces 76-70. On Saturday, the UFL championship game was played. The Defenders 58, Panthers 34. Right? I'll give you game schedules for tonight before I close out and, in a little bit once we get to that point. Right? So, some news that you can use. Canelo Alvarez is set to fight Bud Crawford. That fight is going to be on Netflix. I do not have a date as of yet. So we'll see. When I get a date, I will definitely let you guys know when that date is, as I always do. Former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown is wanted on attempted murder charges. So this dude has gone from being arguably one of the best wide receivers in the game to, I don't know what to call it. But now there's an apparent warrant out for him for attempted murder charge. Yeah, Sports Shot. That's exactly what I said. Like I said, I don't even know what to call it. Like I said, he went from arguably one of the best receivers in the game to, I got stuck there. I don't even know what to call him. And this is just the culmination of the troubles, trials, and tribulation that he's been through since he's not been playing football. And ironically, it started his last couple years playing football because it kind of carried into football, and then it just got blown up once he left football. So, I wish him the best. A hell of a talent. Unfortunately, right now, we could debate and say it's wasted talent, definitely because of these charges. And he has somewhat of a track record, if you will. So it's not going to be, at this point, no one's going to really care that he was. Nobody's going to really care about the Antonio Brown that he was. They're going to be concerned with the Antonio Brown that he is currently. Sad to say that it has come to this for him, but I don't know what's going on inside that man's head. I don't know what happened. I don't know what people he has around him. But apparently, it's not doing him much good because, like I just reported to you, he's wanted on attempted murder charge. So there you have that. In the NBA, we know the draft is coming. Today is June 16th. So we got about 8 days left for the draft, right? And I know some people are excited. We already know we project Cooper Flag to go at number 1 to the Dallas Mavericks. Then we got the Spurs at number 2 and my beloved 76ers at number 3. There has been a lot of chatter about the Sixers and that number 3 pick. Most recently, there's been reports of heavy conversation or heavy dialogue between the Sixers and the Spurs about them swapping picks 2 and 3. There's also been talk about VJ Edgecombe being who the Sixers want with that number 3 pick. At one point, there was talk about some trades trading down to 7. I don't think that's in the Sixers' best interest to trade down out that number 3 pick. Again, I'm okay with talking to the Spurs. If you move up to the 2, then you almost guarantee the player that you want, because you can kind of take Cooper Flag off your board right now. The Dallas Mavericks are going to take Cooper Flag, so he like pretty much is off the board. So if you move up to that number 2, you're almost guaranteed to take the player that you want. If you stay at that number 3, like I said last week, you have to take the best player available. There's been a lot of talk about the Duke, 2 guys from Duke, the center, Kalam Maluk. I think I may be screwing that name up a lot, and then Khan Nupel. There was also talk about Derek. I think it's Derek Queen, the kid from Maryland. I may have the wrong last name. And a young kid from Texas. Then, of course, we had the Ace Belly and then the Dylan Harper back and forth thing. So my thoughts, real quick, on this situation and the prospects that are there. Doing my homework, looking at highlights, looking at things. I watched highlights of the 4: Edgecombe, Bailey, Harper, and the young kid from Texas. I didn't really see a lot from the big guy from Maryland, and then Duke is just, they were just all over the place, so you saw them a lot. One thing that I did notice is out of those 4 that I mentioned, I saw more defense in the highlights than I did in any of the other 3 in the highlights. I saw VJ Edgecombe. And looking at the makeup of the Sixers roster right now, I think VJ Edgecombe is a good fit because of his wingspan, because of his size. He can play both ends of the floor, and that's something, especially on the wing, that the Sixers needed on that defensive end of the ball. He can play the 2 and the 3. But for me, the selling point for him was what I saw from him on the defensive end of the floor. So again, at number 3, you have to take the best player available, and you have to figure out how to make it work. If you somehow do get up to that number 2, then you take the player on top of your board. No questions asked at that point. If you get to that number 2, if you do that, make the decision to move to that number 2, you take that player that's at the top of your board. And again, like I said, we can pretty much forget Cooper Flag. Dallas is not trading out that number 1 pick. They are selecting Cooper Flag on June 24th as the first pick, overall pick, in the 2025 NBA draft. So, moving right along. Since I'm talking NBA, first 2 lists I saw, and we're getting into my top 10 stuff, right? And I do want to get to the officiating thing, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get to that today. But just be mindful that the more I sit on it, the more I'm going to have to say about it. All right, so my first top 10 list of the day. All right, and again, let me just preface this by saying these are not my own personal top 10 lists. They are lists that I saw that I thought were interesting and I felt like we could have some fun and talk about them, right? Um, Before I get into that, I'm going to give you these names again. And I mentioned to you about the Sixers and the potential draft picks or the prospects. And I'm going in order from 8 to 1 when I give you these names. There's Trey Johnson, that's the kid from Texas. Derek Queen of Maryland, so I did have that name right. Noah Asengi, Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina, Ace Bailey from Rutgers, Kaman Maluk from Duke, VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, and Khan Nupu from Duke. So they didn't even have Dylan Harper on this list. All right, and the people are saying that with the guards that the Spurs have, there might not really be a need for him. And I mean, if the Sixers if they somehow decide to take Dylan Harper there, the Sixers still have very solid picks with the protections of Ace Bailey and VJ Edgecombe. But again, I think VJ Edgecombe, if it gets left to those two, Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe, for me, I prefer VJ Edgecombe because I think he can come in and help immediately. All right. I think he can come in and participate immediately. All right. So getting to these lists. All right. Top 10 point guards of all time. Again, like I say to you, these are not my personal lists. These are lists that I came across in my research and brand topics to this show to talk to you guys and have some dialogue with you guys. All right. So these are all going to go in order from 1 down to 10. Right. So again, top 10 point guards of all time. At number 1, we have Magic Johnson. At 2, Oscar Robertson. 3, John Stockton. Steph Curry. Number 4, Isaiah Thomas at number 5. Chris Paul at number 6. Steve Nash at number 7. At number 8, Jason Kidd. Number 9, Walt Clyde Frazier. Number 10, Bob Cousy. All right, a little bit about this list from me. Not upset with the list. I personally, when I talk to people, I always bring up Oscar Robertson when I talk about point guards. I also bring up Clyde Frazier when I talk about point guards because I always feel like when someone comes to me and they say, what is your top 10, yada, 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 and you throw in that word your, then you have to understand what you're literally asking. You're asking me what my thoughts are. So I have to go based on everything that I've seen, everything that I know. So there will probably, well, there's a very good chance that there will be some names in my list that you might not agree with, but you have to respect it if you throw that word your in that statement or that question. If you throw your in there, meaning mine, you ask me what I felt. You can disagree, but you can't discredit it. You can't disrespect it if you asked me for mine. It's like if I turn around and ask you for yours, I may say some things like, oh, well, we could disagree on number 4 or this and that, but I respect your answers, and I also am looking for you to, if I were to ask, to have some reasoning behind your answer. All right. So yeah, I always threw Oscar Robertson and I always threw not Chris Paul, Walt Frazier in. I was getting to the Chris Paul thing. One of the things I said to people a lot before we got to the stage of the NBA where we are now, I felt like for a long time in the NBA, I felt like Chris Paul was one player, being that point guard, that could take control of a game without scoring a point. And again, there's no disrespect for him. He can score the ball. But I meant just his his basketball IQ for what was current at the time, which is when he was in his prime. All right. So I'm not saying it's overall or whatever, but I'm just saying what I saw from him in his prime. I felt like he could take over a game or take control of a game and not score a point. The things that he could do as a point guard. All right. Top 10 shooting guards of all time. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, James Harden, Reggie Miller, Allen Iverson, Clyde Drexler, Ray Allen, George Gervin, Tracy McGrady. Not a bad list. I'm sure there are some that could be added into this list or that could be put on a list of top 10 point guards. I'm sure there is, right? So, again, not my personal list, but things you can talk about it. Of course, me, Michael Jordan, number one favorite player, definitely there. I have no arguments there. Kobe Bryant. I like this because I wish people, when they talked about people saying, people talk about greatest of all time and things of that nature, and people tend to forget the player that Kobe Bryant was. Dwayne Wade, very good. James Harden, yes, very good. Reggie Miller, we know Reggie Miller. Allen Iverson, if you are a Sixers fan, if you are a basketball fan, if you don't know Allen Iverson, whatever. Clyde Drexler, yes. Ray Allen, yes. George Gervin, the Iceman, all right, and T-Mac, yes. Very good list, solid list there. But one thing I did forget to mention to you, I'm going to mention it to you right now, and it might pop some curves, it might pop some challenges there. So Sports Shots Pie, I know y'all saw it. What up to my guy, Mighty Robinson? I forgot to give you a shout out. I did wave back at you, though. But here we go. I mentioned it, the NBA trade, and I mentioned it, and I didn't get into it. But NBA trade, Grizzlies and the Magic. And I got a little sidetracked because the Sports Shot, they asked about that rebranding, and it threw me off a little bit. But anyway, Grizzlies trade Desmond Bain to the Orlando Magic. In return, the Grizzlies get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony. I hope you're sitting down. I hope you're ready for this. 4 unprotected first-round picks. 1 first-round pick swap. And this year's number 16 overall pick. Somebody tell me, who gives up all of that? That's a lot. And it's for Desmond Bain. Don't get me wrong. Very good. Solid player. I was looking, the Sixers were looking at drafting. I was actually thinking, hoping the Sixers would drafted him. But to give up all of that, that may set you back. I can see Kentavious Caldwell-Pope because they play the same position at 2 guard. But you bring in Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony is going to be your backup point guard, I assume. The part that gets me, though, is the 4 unprotected first-round picks and 1 first-round pick swap. I don't think that's way, way too much, in my opinion, for just Desmond Bain. Just my thoughts and what I'm thinking. But I think that's way, way too much. Anyway, back into our top 10s. This one is not necessarily a top 10, but there are 10 teams in this. These are the NFL Power Rankings going into the preseason, into training camps approaching. So people might not like this, but you got to live with it. And we are the champs until the Super Bowl is played and someone wins, if it's not us again. So, at number 1, Philadelphia Eagles. At number 2, the Ravens. The Lions at 3, the Commanders at 4. Bills at 5. Rounding out the top 10, the Chiefs, the mighty Chiefs, have fallen down to 6. The Rams at 7, the Bucks at 8. And closing out at 9 and 10, the Vikings and the Bengals, respectively. So, eat that up. Eat that up. Eagles Power Rankings, number 1. We know it's tough to repeat. Went to the Super Bowl 2 times in the last 3 years. We'll see what happens. Top 10 quarterbacks. Again, 1 through 10. Pat Mahomes. Of course, the Eagles. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're the champs until someone says we're not the champs. Or till something, like I said, till something says we're not the champs. So we got a lot of time. And I'm sorry for football fans. I'm sorry for some of you. But you got to eat that for the whole season. Got to eat it for the whole season. And the one thing I'm going to put out there right now, I'm going to put this out there very early. I know people are going to say if something happens and we go on like a two-game losing streak or things look a little shaky, people are going to say, oh, this and that. These are the Eagles that we thought we saw. Yeah. It's not the Eagles that you saw the last couple seasons, maybe 2 seasons ago. Yes, a little bit. But bottom line is, still the champs until otherwise noted. And I don't want people to discredit it just because the Eagles say it, because there are so many teams that live vicariously through their old Super Bowls, namely the Dallas Cowboys fans. So, if it gets to that point, it looks a little shaky this year, and the Eagles fan, you talk to one, and they say, oh, we still the champs, though, until somebody changes that. Don't be upset. Just accept it. Okay, just accept it. Again, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Finally, you were just about to mention them. Absolutely. They're like the worst. I mean, I know other teams do it, talk about how many rings they got and this and that, but the Cowboys are like the worst. Okay, they are the worst at it, and they don't really have any credit in it. That's why I said if the Eagles say it now, they can get away with it because they are the champs. Finally, again, finally some respect, if you will, for Jalen Hurts. They have him ranked now at number 3 in the quarterback rankings. Then there's Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Matt Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert, and C.J. Stroud. On this list, me personally, and this is not just because I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, going on what today's sports relics and sports people talk about, championships and things of that nature, I get you Pat Mahomes because of what he's done in the league in a short time. Lamar Jackson, I kind of understand it, but after Pat Mahomes, there's only, and I'm including Jalen Hurts, there's only 2 quarterbacks on this list that haven't won a Super Bowl. It's Hurts and Stafford. But again, I do thank the people for giving Jalen Hurts some credit, giving him some flowers after such hate and whatever you want to call it. But now he's number 3, so I appreciate you guys for that. All right, moving on to top 10 running backs. Of course, another Eagle. Eagles are all over these lists, man. I got to tell you that. So, Number 1, Saquon, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, James Cook, Kyren Williams, Alvin Kamara, and Joe Mixon. Not too bad of a list. We know who we got there. Saquon, number 1 running back in the league, right? On the number 1 football team in the league. Reigning champs of the league. Top 10 wide receivers. A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Smith, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors. 2 Eagles on that list. Number 1 and number 10. Number 8, I'm sorry. Number 1 and number 8. Got them in there, right? Top 10 tight ends. Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, George Kittle, Trey McBride, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert coming in at number 7. Number 8, T.J. Hockenson, and rounding out the tight ends at 9 and 10, respectively, Isaiah Likely and Jonnu Smith. On to some defensive stuff for you guys, right? Top 10 defensive linemen. Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, Michael Parsons, another Eagle, bounces around, Jalen Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Nick Bosa, Aiden Hutchinson, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, Will Anderson, I'm sorry, not Will Andrews, Will Anderson. Bowers. Yeah, he could, I'm sure he will help out in fantasy. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. The top 10 linebackers, another Eagle, Zach Bond, Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, Bobby Wagner, Nick Bolton, Patrick Queen, Levante David, Zaire Franklin, Nick Bonito, and another Eagle round out of the top 10 to Kobe Dean if he can get healthy. All right, I think he should be in there, but he's got to get healthy. I don't think we've seen the best from the Kobe Dean yet. So hoping that he can stay healthy and get on the field, and we can see a lot more of him. Rounding out these top 10s for today, it was top 10 cornerbacks. Pat Surtain, Cooper DeJohn, Derek Stingley Jr., Trent McDuffie, Jalen Ramsey, Sauce Gardner, Marlon Humphrey, Jalen Johnson, Quinyon Mitchell, Quinyon Bay, and Devin Witherspoon. Those are those top 10s. All right, rounded those out. So talking a little bit about some of the names that we've heard in some of these. Since we're here in cornerbacks, you know that there have been rumors and talk about the Eagles possibly having talks and having some interest in Jalen Ramsey. There's also most recently been the news of the possible releasing of Jair Alexander, and there's also been possibility of the Eagles jumping in on that. And there's also been reports of the other safety, Simmons, who wants to play for the Eagles. There has been talk of that because of Vic Fangio, but we have not heard any more news of that. That was the early news, but that has kind of quieted it down a little bit. But Jair Alexander, I don't understand. It has to be a money issue with them releasing him because they're, as a team, that they're making a turn, somewhat a turn for the better. So I don't understand why you would get rid of arguably one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Really strange. Jalen Ramsey appears to be disgruntled down there in Miami, and a lot of players are disgruntled down there in Miami. So I can understand why he might want to get out of there. But again, you know that the Eagles are not going, or Howie Roseman is not going to just make a move on a whim just because. And he doesn't really care if it's a name or not a name. But I don't feel like that's a move that he would make. I think they might be holding out to see what they can do with this Justin Simmons because they've already signed all but one of their draft picks. So the Eagles, the Eagles are preparing and planning and drafting to be relevant for a good bit of time. Going back 2 years when we started seeing this influx of the Georgia kids on offense and defense, but more importantly on that defense, they're coming and they're young. So imagine if these guys can be around together for a while in about another 2-3 more years, you know, you could be talking about them, and as far as this team being put together, quote unquote, possible dynasty. But more importantly, the way that they've been talking about OKC and the draft picks that they have, and then the Eagles still have draft picks. So I even joked about it myself at one point early, and said the Eagles could possibly turn into and become the Oklahoma City Thunder of the NFL. But the Eagles have already won a championship, so that's the difference. I'm just kidding. That's just the one difference, though, but I'm just kidding in that. But anyway, if you think about a lot of the things that Howie Roseman has done over the past couple of years, a lot of the players that he has brought in, some of them have been very strategic. We had Ndamukong Suh, and it was a 1-year deal. Then he re-signed again. They must have seen something off the field or something that they didn't like or they didn't agree with CJ. And from my understanding, when I go back and I think about him being drafted from the very beginning, there was talk and there was chatter that the Eagles were thinking about drafting him. But when they brought him in town, when he was supposed to be in meetings or after meetings, you know, they're watching you. Okay, that they're seeing what you're doing out in the community if they're going to bring you into this organization. Because, this is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate here, all right? The rumors are that he was hanging out with the chicks and the ladies in the Xfinity Lounge, and that was not the behavior that the Eagles wanted to be associated with completely, especially with someone coming out of college that time. It felt like you're not mature enough to really handle this, and this is what we want. We want somebody that can be mature and handle what's about to happen. So that's the rumor again, that something happened, some things were going on, and they traded him. But he fired back a little bit. He said nothing was wrong and whatever. What everybody said, the one thing they can't take away from him now is that he's got a ring, and he does have a ring now. So congratulations to him for being part of this Eagles train that did win that Super Bowl last year. But again, I guess they feel like they want to move on. We talk about that backfield. You got Cooper DeJean because they got rid of Darius Slay was also let go. But you got Quinyon Mitchell, you got Cooper DeJean, all right? Your safety, you got Reed Blankenship back there, right? You're going to need another safety, all right? But then again, you can't discredit Sidney Jones, all right? You can't discredit the kid that they drafted from Texas, who could arguably step in and be as impactful as Quinyon Mitchell was last season. So they drafted in the right way to fill in the gaps that they lost with players that they lost. But it's just a matter of them getting in and doing what they do and seeing what they can see. But all prospects are looking up. All projections are looking up, and all things are positive. So that there is one of the best things I can say about Howie Roseman and how he drafts. It's amazing how he continues to bring in players that are the caliber of players that you will see excel in the NFL for a long, long time. All right. So, some other stuff on the slate for today. NBA draft again, like I said, I'm bouncing around a little bit. That's coming back. But we saw the trade. I talked to you just quickly about the Desmond Bain trade, and I told you I felt like that's too much. Some of these names I'm getting ready to give you, and now that I'm looking at it again, I'm like, when I get to this particular one, I'm talk about it a little bit. So these are like 7 stars who projected or rumored who could be traded or be on the move. All right, we already heard about Giannis and KD. And they're throwing in now LaMelo Ball, Jaylen Brown, John Morant, Lauri Markkanen, and Cat. So most recently after the playoffs, we heard about Cat. We heard throughout the season about Lauri Markkanen. Little bit about John Morant, and this could be why they got rid of the Desmond Bain, maybe to clear up some money to add to make another move and get rid of Ja, something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll see. Jaylen Brown, we heard about the Drew Holiday trade talks, and they were serious about that. We also know Tatum is not going to be available at the very beginning of the season. If he comes back, it's going to be very late in the season, although he did have surgery early. But that injury we know is a long-lasting injury, and it's like you got to do therapy. Then you got to get on the court to do on basketball activity. Then you got to start playing basketball and get in basketball shape. It's going to take a long time if he comes back at all this season. So we also knew that team was going to have a different look because of what happened in the playoffs this year. And Jaylen Brown, who just signed, again, with the money that's tied up in these players, could possibly, and there has been chatter about him possibly being moved. With the Hornets, it looks like they could be looking at possibly another rebuild, blowing it up, and it looks like they might be trying to move Melo just to save him for whatever. So, that being said, folks, I am definitely appreciative of everyone that tuned in. Sports Shots Pod, shoot me a message. Let me know when your next episode is. If it's live, and I can jump in and chime in with you guys. Or if not, I will definitely take a peek at the episode and add some commentary, if you will. I always talk about my friends. You guys know this, and I have some very good friends that I talk about. I want to give a shout out to one guy, Big Brother, my bro. Always working, always in the gym. My guy, Joe Richmond, the ambassador of basketball for your Delaware Blue Coats if you're in this tri-state area, Philly, New Jersey, Delaware. All right, but more importantly, I always talk to you about them. I always talk to you about the Blue Coats, and I tell you how it's right down the road. Get down there, check out a game, some future NBA prospects. You can sometimes even catch some NBA players from the Sixers down there getting back in shape from injuries and things of that nature. All right, this Friday, 6 to 8 p.m., 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Chase Fieldhouse down there in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware. All right, they are having an open house. All right. Frenchie, my guy, thanks for tuning in. Late, but thanks for tuning in anyway. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for tuning in. You can get a tour of the locker room and the facility. All right. You can take photos with the championship trophy and banner. And you can view select ticket packages and seating. All right. Not 100% sure if I'll be there, but don't be surprised if I pop up and you see me there. All right. But anyway, if you don't see me there, if you get down there, tell them that SportsRap CEO sent you. All right. SportsRap Podcast, SportsRap CEO sent you down to check out the Delaware Blue Coats. All right. Make sure y'all check them out. Like I said, those are some more of my friends, and you need to get down to that. You know, because I know some Sixers games are rather expensive. I understand. But you can get down there and see some of them young prospects. And you can see prospects from other teams as well, because they don't just play the Blue Coats, they play the other teams in the G League. And right now, it's 30 teams in the NBA, so it's 30 teams in the G League because every team now has an affiliate in the G League. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Schedules for tonight, games for tonight. Major League Baseball, we got the Phils and the Marlins, the Rockies and the Nationals, the Angels and the Yankees, the Orioles and the Rays. Also the Red Sox and the Marlins, the Astros and the A's, and the Padres and the Dodgers. All right, WNBA Tuesday, not tonight, Tuesday for WNBA. The Dream and the Liberty, the Sun and the Fever, the Valkyries and the Wings, the Aces and the Lynx, the Mystics and the Sky, the Storm and the Sparks. And tonight, 8:30, ABC. And for the first time since 2013, I believe, you will see the full announcing of the starters for both teams tonight in the NBA Finals. NBA Finals tonight continue. Game 5 in Oklahoma City. Pacers at Thunder. Pacers, Thunder tied 2 games apiece. Again, thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this Monday to kick off your week. I hope you have a great week. You know you will catch me all week in traffic on social media. Also, remember, get over to YouTube. All right, you know what to do on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the videos. Hit the thumbs up on your favorite videos. Then hit that bell so you'll know when new content is up and alert. Also, make sure you are following Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at SportsRap CEO. All right. Again, make sure you get to that YouTube page, SportsRap TV. Make sure you get over to the Patreon page as well. All right. You can get some exclusive videos. Summertime's coming up. You know what we do at Heat 100 Radio. You can get you some exclusive merchandise. You can see exclusive video clips of shows and things of that nature, interviews and other stuff when I'm out and stuff like that. Patreon.com/SportsRap. It's $4 membership. All right. $4 membership and you get alerted for all that good stuff. Be great on purpose, folks. Get home safe. Talk to y'all all week on social media. Right back live next Monday. Peace.